you. I'm going to introduce Kula Koenig when she's able to get on board and join the meeting. But I think we should proceed. We do have a quorum, and I wanted to first say good afternoon and welcome to the January 19th, 2022 meeting of the Communication and Public Education Committee. I'm the committee chairperson, Ricardo Sanchez. This meeting is being conducted consistent with the Government Code Section 11133. People watching the webcast can only observe the meeting. Anyone interested in participating must join the WebEx meeting. Instructions on how to join the meeting are posted on our website. All lines are currently on mute, with the exception of legal counsel. Lines will remain on mute until I direct staff to open them for public comments. I will announce when we are accepting public comments. I have advised staff to allow 2 minutes to each person providing comments. This approach is necessary to facilitate this meeting and ensure the committee can complete its business. Thank you for your understanding and patience. I will now ask staff to provide general instructions to the public. Moderator will now make comments to the public.
Thank you. This is the moderator. For today, we will be utilizing the WebEx question and answer feature for processing of public comments. You will hear me refer to it as the Q&A. When public comment is called to open, I will open the Q&A portal and display the following instructions. In order to request public comment, you will need to find that Q&A icon on your screen. Looks like a question mark inside of a square, typically located in the bottom right corner of your screen. When you click on that icon, it opens a text box. In that text box, you can type the word comment and submit that to all panelists. As the committee chair said, we will be allowing 2 minutes for comments. I will be providing a 15-second warning when your time is about to expire. When your time does expire, I will let you know that it has expired and mute your microphone, moving on to the next commenter. I will be taking comments in the order that they are received. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the committee chair.
Thank you. We will now move to agenda item A. Which is call to order establishment of quorum. I call this meeting to order and will now take a roll to establish a quorum. Members, as I call your name, please remember to unmute your line before speaking. Jose de la Paz.
Present.
Thank you. Shirley Kim.
Here.
Thank you. Nicole Thibault.
Here.
Thank you. And Jason Weiss.
I'm here, Ricardo.
Thank you. And thank you for everyone for joining and participating. I appreciate it. Kula Koenig, she on by any chance?
She has not arrived yet.
Okay, no problem. Let's see. Okay, well, thank you. Let's move on to item B. Public comments on items not on the agenda matters future meetings. The committee will now hear public comments on matters that are not on this agenda. The committee cannot discuss or take actions on any matter raised in this part of the meeting except to place it on a future agenda. Are there any public comments regarding items not on this agenda? Moderator, can you please open the lines for public comment?
This is the moderator. I've opened that Q&A panel. If anybody would like to make a comment for items not on today's agenda, please find that Q&A icon, click on it, type comment into the text field, and submit that to our panelists. Not seeing any requests. Would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
Thank you. Do any committee members have any comments? Hearing none, thank you. And let's move on to item C. Of educational material, how to file a complaint under SB 362 and general whistleblower protections under California law. As noted in the committee report, Senate Bill 362 362 took effect January 1st, 2022. Among other provisions, the new law prohibits community chain pharmacies from using quotas to evaluate the job performance of pharmacists or pharmacy technicians. The law also allows the board to take enforcement action against pharmacy for violations. Board members have asked about a complaint process and whistleblower protections for licensees alleging violations of SB 362. It's requested educational material to implement the law, including information on filing complaints and whistleblower protections. Staff has identified materials that could be leveraged to implement SB 362. For example, the board has resources for consumer complaints, including a brochure and an online complaint form. These could be revised to include licensee complaints related to SB 362. Alternatively, the board could create a separate form for SB 362. Staff has drafted sample text for a possible brochure for licensee complaints. The sample text is on page 2 of this committee report under the title, "Do you have a complaint about a pharmacy performance quota?" Regarding whistleblower protections, staff notes SB 362 does not include any such protections. However, California law does provide general protections for workers alleging employer violations of laws or regulations. For example, a sample workplace notice regarding whistleblower protections from the State Division of Labor Standards Enforcement discusses protections for employees. The notice also advises employees to report possible violations to a state whistleblower hotline. The committee could direct staff to identify resources regarding whistleblower protections, such as these in communications to licensees about filing complaints related to SB 362. Do committee members have any questions or comments regarding the staff's suggestions for educational material to implement SB 362?
Hi, yes, Ricardo, this is Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
I was wondering, could someone a staff member make a complaint that was anonymous? Or, well, that would be my suggestion, that it's allowed to be anonymous, or that if they did have to provide their information to the board, that was not shared with the pharmacy if a complaint was initiated. Has this been taken into consideration?
I will defer to Anne, and she can elaborate on that.
Hi, Nicole. Thank you for the question. Yes, the board does investigate anonymous complaints, but they are more difficult to investigate because you're not able to, ascertain additional information. In addition, depending on the type of complaint, evidence may be necessary to review to determine whether or not an allegation, is investigated and determined to be a violation of the law. With respect to whether or not someone can disclose and request to remain anonymous, I'm sorry to do this, but I need to punt that because that's a legal question to Eileen.
Sure. Thank you.
And I can't answer that totally because just as you had said, and that with some of the complaints, for instance, if we go to disciplinary hearing or something, then the pharmacy sometimes will, you're then governed by discovery under the Administrative Procedures Act. And if we have the identity of a complainant, then it may have to be disclosed depending on the evidence. But usually not the attorney, obviously, that is doing the hearings. It's a member of the Attorney General's office, but I don't know if we can absolutely guarantee the confidentiality of a complainant's name if they submit one, particularly in light of the discovery obligations, and or if we get certain subpoenas, if some of the complaints may amount to violations of federal law, or something where we get certain types of subpoenas that we may not be able to hold some of that confidential.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, maybe I don't know how we tell people about that, but maybe we want to include something about whether or not it's confidential in the educational materials. And in regard to the whistleblower protections, I like the idea of putting something on there that points people to a resource, because I don't think most people are inherently aware of that. So I think that would be helpful.
Points, Nicole. Hopefully get some answers to that. Is there any other comments from our board members?
Hi, Ricardo. This is Jason.
Yes, Jason, go ahead.
If I could get input from Anne regarding this brochure where the proposed text is included, that you would include it. How long is that brochure? Is that something that pharmacy staff usually is aware of where it's located? And I also like Nicole's suggestion of possible protections for anyone that wants to provide the board with a notice of these quotas.
Yes, definitely. Obviously.
Hi, Jason.
So the whistleblower.
Sorry, Ricardo, I didn't mean to speak over you. So the board has a generic online, consumer complaint brochure. And so the information was developed. The intended audience for our more generic is probably more directed towards a consumer as opposed to maybe, a pharmacy employee as a complainant. So the process would be typically the same, but what we were potentially suggesting is maybe tailoring a complaint process more specifically for a pharmacy employee, as opposed to just the more general consumer brochure that we already have. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that does make sense. Just as long as pharmacy staff is aware of this brochure that we are communicating to them through. I do like the text that you have here, and if we could also incorporate Nicole's thoughts on connecting to protections for whistleblowers, I'd appreciate that, and I'd be happy to make a motion after discussion.
Okay. Finish off with the is there any other comments? Get there though. I have to open it up to public comments afterwards. Board members, is there any other comments? Hearing none. Thank you, and then we'll come back. Jason?
Ricardo, I'm sorry. This is the moderator. You're fading in and out again.
Okay. I was saying we're going to go ahead and open it up for public comment, and then we'll come back, and then we'll take Jason's motion. Is that the proper way to go about it, Anne?
Chair Sanchez, this is Eileen. If the board or if the committee is ready to entertain a motion and somebody to second it, it might be preferable to do that, and then you only have to open it up for public comment once. But I don't know where the committee is. But I think Member Weiss had indicated he was would do a motion. And if you have a motion once you open it up for public comment, then you wouldn't have to open it up again unless you change the motion.
I just wanted, procedural-wise, I wanted to make sure it was. Well, then let's go ahead. Can you go ahead and make that motion again, Jason, so we record it properly?
Yes. Is it possible to get the text on the screen? Otherwise, I could describe where I'd like to put the addition of whistleblower protections, or whistleblowers are provided protection through California law. If we could fit that somewhere within the already provided text, I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Yeah, Jason, I'm not quite sure that they can flip to that, but a potential motion may be to recommend approval of establishing a complaint process specific for pharmacy employees and include references to whistleblower protections as well as provisions for anonymity and confidentiality consistent with legal provisions. So maybe something along those lines.
I think that's exactly what it was, Anne. Thank you. I'd like to make that motion.
And I would second.
I'll
Okay,
second. This is Nicole.
That was actually Jose that came up.
Yeah, I second the motion.
Yes, Jose. So we have a motion by Jason. We have a second by Jose de la Paz. So we're going to vote on it now. Do we have to go to for public comment?
Yeah, public comment
we should
now
open
on
up
the
for
motion.
public comment.
Yeah, then we come back and vote. Okay. Well, the moderator, can you open it up for public comment?
This is the moderator. We've opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to comment on this item, please click on that Q&A icon on your screen, type comment into the text field, and submit that to our panelists. Our first comment comes from Danny Martinez. Danny, I've sent the request to unmute your microphone.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, thank you. This is Danny Martinez with the California Pharmacists Association. We are one of the two co-sponsors of SB 362. We are very appreciative of this information, and to Board Member Thibault's point, we absolutely support finding some way to make these complaints anonymous. We all are very well aware of the fear that exists out there of retaliation or complaining about any sort of violations. We discussed this in other committees with the pharmacists in charge being afraid. If they're afraid, imagine a regular pharmacist being afraid to report any of these doings. So if there's any way we can further add that information or make it some point of the process anonymous for complainants, that would be great. Otherwise, we fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you. And our next comment comes from Jazzy Graywall. Jazzy, I've sent a request to unmute your microphone.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Good. Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. This is Jazzy Graywall here on behalf of UFCW Western States Council. First, we'd like to thank the board for putting together these educational materials on SB 362, which is a first in the nation protection for pharmacists and pharmacy technicians, as well as for whistleblower protections and how to file a complaint. When pharmacists and pharmacy technicians have knowledge on key worker protections, they're more likely to be empowered in the workplace. I'd also like to echo support for the comments made by Danny Martinez with the California Pharmacists Association. UFCW has a few suggestions on how to improve the educational materials and outreach on SB 362 and the whistleblower protections. First, we would suggest direct communication from this board to PICs and community chain pharmacies on the requirements of SB 362 and whistleblower protections for pharmacists and technicians. Second, we believe there should be information included on how to file an anonymous complaint for pharmacists or technicians who might be too afraid to come forward, and the pros and cons of an anonymous complaint. And lastly, community chain pharmacists have shared concerns that they're reluctant to file a complaint because there could potentially be other violations in the pharmacy. There should be the addition of materials on what occurs when an investigator comes to the pharmacy and responds to a complaint as it relates to potential other violations present. Thank you for allowing me to make public comment today.
Thank you.
And that's our last request for public comment. Would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
Okay. Let's go to voting on that motion list. Can you please signify by saying yay or nay when I call your name? And Jose de la Paz,
Yes.
Shirley Kim,
Yes.
Nicole Thibault,
Yes.
and Jason Weiss,
Yes.
and myself, Ricardo Sanchez, is a yes. So it passes unanimously. Let's Well, thank you, and let's move on to item D. That's an update on communication and public education activities by staff. This section is brief, so unless any committee members have questions or comments, I will go through all the items before comments at the end. But actually, Anne, I believe I was gonna have her uh, give a little bit of a overview though. Anne, you want to chime in on this?
Sure. So this agenda item is really intended to just keep the committee apprised of the various activities that staff are doing related to, communication and public education. So I believe that the meeting materials do provide some updates. With respect to the script, which is the board's newsletter. There are many articles that have been written. We are hopeful that the script will be published by February. We're going to focus on changes in pharmacy law, but as well as highlight some of the FAQs that have been under development. We also have an article that's focused on immunizations and some of the issues that we are finding as a way to educate licensees to evaluate their practice settings and see if there's opportunities to mitigate some risks by learning from, the challenges that others have experienced. With respect to the projects that are under development, this committee has requested that staff explore alternative means by which for licensees to complete that self-assessment. As you may recall, the self-assessment is a tool intended to assist pharmacists in charge of self-evaluating for a facility's compliance with pharmacy law. There are varying triggering events that result in the requirement for a self-assessment to be completed. Under the current process, a self-assessment form, there's a fillable PDF that's available on our website. The board was interested in looking to see if there are alternative ways with which that self-assessment can be completed. So the update on that is that board staff, we have reached out to the Department of Consumer Affairs, both their IT shop as well as their Office of Organizational Improvement. And where we are is we are hopeful to have another meeting with the Organizational Improvement Office where we can kind of develop some different use cases and business process mapping that can then be leveraged by those staff to develop some possible alternatives that could be used as alternative means to complete that self-assessment. So we're really leveraging the department and their expertise both in organizational improvement as well as IT to assist us in determining what, if any, additional processes or options there may be to deploy that self-assessment. They have some preliminary ideas, but we need to have some deeper discussions on that. So we do anticipate that those discussions will hopefully occur before the end of the fiscal year, subject to resource availability. And then also in the meeting materials, Ricardo, is some of the staff outreach. We're still doing our outreach, but it is primarily done through electronic means, WebEx trainings, those kinds of things, and then the news media. And I'm not quite sure if Bob would like to highlight any of the staff outreach or the news media items.
Thanks, Ann. I would just point out the main thing for the staff outreach was that there was another WebEx training for pharmacists on prescription drug abuse and diversion on November 16th, and we had a total of 254 licensees who attended that event, which was primarily presented by board executive staff and supervising inspectors. And then there's several other outreach activities that are listed in the committee report by outreach that was conducted by Ms. Sodergren and supervising inspector Tony Gandara. And you can see those in the committee report. Thank you.
I'd like to just thank Ann and also Bob and staff at the pharmacy board. They all the work that they do. They give us the pamphlets to give us all the information, all the research, and they do a fabulous job, and it doesn't go unnoticed. I really appreciate the hard work that they do. I just wanted to make a note of that. Is there any committee member comments? Hearing none, moderator, can we open it up for public comments?
This is the moderator. We've again opened that Q&A panel. If you'd like to request to make a comment, please click on the Q&A icon, type comment into the text field, and submit that to our panelists. And seeing none, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, thank you.
It is closed.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to item E. And that's basically future meeting dates. Additional meeting dates for the Communication and Public Education Committee in 2022 are Tuesday, April 26th, Tuesday, July 19th, and Tuesday, October 25th, obviously 2022. This basically concludes our agenda for today. I want to thank you all for your participation and thank you again very much. Now we can close it.